Well, good evening. Since I stepped down from active politics, I have not made any public speeches. So when Shanmugam, or Shan as I call him, asked me to launch his book, my reaction was, ask someone else. He laughed and said that he was asking me because I knew him as an MP the longest. After a moment's pause, I said that I would do it. I felt that his book would have much to offer on governance and public policy. Shan was a young lawyer assisting the late Joe Grimberg of Allen and Gladue, who defended me successfully in the defamation suit by J.B. Jeyaretnam. That was when I first met him. Shan was fielded in the 1988 general elections in Sembawang GRC. At 29, he was the youngest PAP candidate. Would he have won as a young, inexperienced candidate in a single-member ward? Whatever, on hindsight, we know how much Singapore would have lost without Shan's service. His speeches as a backbencher were impactful, and his contributions as a minister immense. As a backbencher in 2001, he spoke against mandatory jail sentences for landlords harboring illegal immigrants. This idea to root out the looming problem of illegal immigrants was, in fact, Mr. Lee Kuan Yew's. Shan's stand showed clearly his view on justice and compassion. 3 years later, the law was changed to give the courts discretion in sentencing. The first chapter of his book, Tempering Justice with Compassion, reflects his values. So, as Jadara said, do not judge Shan by his stern demeanor. As the Minister for Home Affairs and the former Minister for Law, Shan must take a no-nonsense approach to maintain law and order in Singapore. Indeed, as Mr. Lee Kuan Yew had always advised, to govern, you must be feared. I think Shan would add, but govern justly and with compassion. You will see these values reflected across the book. As the Minister for Law, Shan initiated multiple legal reforms, from updates to criminal procedure to legislation addressing online harms. Given how Singapore had evolved as a nation, he sought to strike a new balance between individual rights and social stability. As Minister for Home Affairs, he emphasized the importance of safeguarding national security, social cohesion, as well as racial and religious harmony. He vigorously countered foreign interference and online manipulation. He also spoke up on social issues beyond his portfolios, like women and gender inequality, and the trauma of divorces and violence from partners. He advocated for a fundamental change in mindset when it came to protecting women and other vulnerable groups in society. What persuaded Shan to enter politics? When he was about to be made a partner in a leading law firm. 20 years later, in 2008, what made him give up a lucrative career at the peak of his profession to be a minister? In short, what is Shan's ikigai? Readers will find this answer or the answer from his book. Shan understands inequality and the wealth gap in a personal way. He had straddled it and lived at both ends. He did not come from a well-off family. His parents had little social capital. Singapore's system allowed him to do well, to succeed. He wanted less privileged children to get the same opportunities as he did. He says, and I quote, "I was fortunate to have been born in Singapore, and I want to help make policies to make sure other Singaporeans have the opportunities that I did," unquote. Shan sees his public life as a worthwhile cause. He did not agonize over the significant financial sacrifice he had to make. He says, I quote, "On my last day on earth, what would I have wanted to have done with my life? Spend all the time making more money, or also spend some time doing some good work for the community and others, and perhaps some good for the country," unquote. These words resonate with me. When I was interviewed to be a candidate 50 years ago, Dr. Toh Chin Chai asked me why I wanted to be an MP. I replied simply, to give back to society. I went through university on a bursary. Later, Mr. J.Y. Pillay, head of the Economic Planning Unit, sent me on a fellowship to the US to study development economics. I was bonded to serve the government for a total of 10 years. I was indebted to the Singapore system, which gave me the opportunities to do well. There were many others like Shan and me in our generations. We intellectually and intuitively felt that we should answer the call of duty to do national service. A city might be built in one generation, but a nation needs multiple generations to build. Nation building is like a marathon relay. Each generation must produce its best team to carry the torch. Which reminds me of an African saying, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. For Singapore to go far, the country must go together with the best national leadership team possible. I think a lot about this issue, even after retirement, or even in retirement. Good national leadership is the key to a country's success. Good governance and public policies are wishful aspirations unless there are strong, competent, and honest leaders at the helm. It is a pity that Shan did not address this directly in his collection of speeches. His chapter on governance and ministerial salary comes closest to this. The political, economic, and social environment in Singapore has changed. There will be no more Lee Kuan Yew's, Goh Keng Swee's, and S. Rajaratnam's. They were exceptional products of dire historical and economic circumstances at our independence. But there should be more Shanmugams who are outstanding products of the Singapore system. However, it is increasingly harder to persuade good, capable people nearing or at the top of their careers or professions to devote themselves to political service. It does not bode well for Singapore if the most capable among each generation of Singaporeans shy away from public service. They are products of the Singapore system, but they may not feel the same obligation to give back to the country as the generations before them. They may attribute the successes to themselves and their families. They may assume that Singapore ecosystem will continue to thrive regardless of who run the country. Moreover, there is a new strong push factor for serving in politics. Politicians are subject to public scrutiny, and understandably so. With social media, this has become more intense. Money is also a factor. Money must never be the incentive for joining politics, but the financial opportunity cost of being a minister is a factor that any rational individual would have to consider. It will not be easy to find another Shanmugam who is willing to forego tens of millions of dollars over a 20-year period as minister. And the cabinet needs more than one Shanmugam. Shan spoke of this issue of ministerial salaries in Parliament in April 2007, when he was a backbencher. He was in favor of paying political office holders a competitive wage, which reflects their heavy responsibilities and impact on people's lives. He pointed out then, quote, "Public sentiment is not positive on these changes, and I do not believe the ground sentiment is going to change anytime soon. So this is one of those policies on which political capital has to be spent, but spend it we must for the longer term of this country," unquote. The government must convince Singaporeans that their future hinges on the ability of our democratic system to produce the best team of men and women to govern. Pay must not be the factor that pulls them in, but neither must it be the factor that pushes them away. Many democracies in the first world have become dysfunctional. For democracy to work in Singapore, election after election, there must be highly capable and well-motivated candidates for the people to choose from in the first place. And there must be enough of them to form a top-class cabinet. Without a top-rate government, the Singapore story will end badly. So congratulations, Shan, on your book launch. As chairman of the Lee Kuan Yew School of Public Policy, I will tell the dean to make it compulsory reading for the students. Thank you.